It's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Pressure is privilege. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, back again with Salt Strong UNCHURCHED. I am so pumped about this episode. Could be one of my favorite phrases here ever, besides the Control-Alt-Delete that I'm using for this whole year. But this just came out of a new book I'm reading, or I mentioned on one of the last podcasts, Expectation Effect. But I'm so pumped. I'm pumped for you to hear this. I'm pumped for your kids and grandkids to hear this. This one phrase, for anyone who's ever suffered from anxiety or just fear in general, or just feeling that pressure in general of anything big. It could be public speaking, it could be a big test or SAT, anything, a job interview, anything big that we've all had to go through in life and will continue to have to go through. This changes everything. This is really a quick way to invert and kind of flip the fear or this pressure on its head and turn it into a positive. I'm bummed that it's taken me 45 years to hear this, but really, really excited that we all get to know this, and I get to use this for the rest of my life. Pressure is privilege. So here's what it means, and I'm just going to read from this book, The Expectation Effect, and this is a story about Billie Jean King. For those of you my age and older, probably remember Billie Jean King, even if you weren't into tennis. I mean, she was legendary. I mean, broke all kinds of records that a ton for women's tennis. And what a lot of people don't know is that she was incredibly introverted. I mean, to the point she was like failing out of fifth grade because she refused to give an oral book report. She would just not go. She would fake it. She would say she's dying because that's how she felt. She was that afraid of public speaking, that whole fight or flight. I mean, she basically had panic attacks, massive ones, around. Can you imagine someone now who's, if you don't know, like look her up. I mean, she is now spoken on all kinds of platforms around the world. And this was someone in fifth grade that was basically wasn't going to be able to pass her grade and go to sixth grade because she literally would not get up there and even open her mouth. She thought she was going to die. She thought she was having a heart attack in fifth grade. She was that scared of public speaking. And she used this pressure is privilege. She talks about it in her book to really change her entire life. And here's what it means in the 30,000 foot view. She's like, well, basically this pressure that I'm feeling, there's anxiety, this is because of something big coming up. And I think that's how all of us should look at anytime we feel that anxiety coming on, or anytime we feel that fear, instead of looking at it as like, oh my gosh, my life's falling apart and I want to just go hide. No, she's like, face it, because that means you were about to have a massive, amazing moment. She goes, because here's what happened with her. She was starting to get good at tennis at a really young age and realized as she started winning matches, it was that same feeling. So even before a big match, something that she loved doing, she loved playing tennis more than anything in the world, she was getting that same little fear and that same rapid heartbeat and feeling like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with my body? The same similar type of fear as she was getting for the public speaking. Obviously, she was excited about going to play tennis. She was dreading and like literally wanted to do everything to avoid the public speaking. And she says, it's literally the same feeling. Why don't I just trick my mind to say, you know what, even the public speaking, even though I don't feel excited about it, I'm going to trick my mind to say, this is just as big, if not bigger, than going up in front of, 100 or 200 or thousands of people, which she ended up doing, and playing my very best at tennis. So I'm gonna read this here. So you might find it useful to frame your anxieties in terms of your broader goals. For her, like playing tennis, so that the sensations themselves can be read as a signal that something is meaningful to your life, that something big is about to happen. You're unlikely to feel anxious about something you don't care about, right? So think about that. You're very unlikely to feel anxious or anxiety about something you don't care about at all. So use it as a signal that something big, something meaningful is about to happen in your life. Because like if you feel nervous before a job interview, that's a sign of how much passion you have for that position. You have a lot of passion, excitement for what's at stake, right? For your potential for growth might even be just to put meals on the table, to protect your family. I mean, that's normal, right? That's passion. So this way, you stop seeing these difficult situations like public speaking as a threat. That's because when it's looked at as a threat, that's what triggers that fight or flight response. So this is the big key here, guys. So if you're looking at whatever it is that you're facing as a threat, right? Like I did with my anxiety attacks, like to me, it was a threat on my life. I just wanted to go hide instead of versus looking at it as something big and meaningful is about to happen to my life, literally just flipping this threat or this massive fear on its head and say, you know what, man, something big's about to happen. This is awesome. I'm going to go all in on this and just embrace it the same way Billie Jean did before a big tennis match. And it literally flipped everything. And that's how you can end the fight or flight response. Instead, walk into it the same way she'd had to do on the tennis court. And once again, she was excited because there was so much at stake. She knew something big was going to happen. And she's like, it was literally identical in terms of the feeling and the heart rate and what my body was doing on a big tennis match, just as it was having to get up in public speaking. One, I dreaded because I thought it was a threat to my life. And the other, I was just excited because it was what I was absolutely passionate about. I'm going to keep reading here. The benefit appears to build with practice. So as she says, this all it didn't happen overnight. You just don't one day say, hey, all my anxieties are gone away. But she says, do this with practice. It's basically a bunch of little small steps to allow your confidence to grow over time. And I've shared that, with so many people who've asked me about the anxiety attacks, and I've got that video on YouTube with hundreds of thousands of views about the kind of the 3 secrets to overcoming anxiety. And one of the things I did was just even the breathing. So even while I was all by myself, I could be outside in areas that I normally didn't get anxiety attacks. And I would just constantly be practicing that breathing, one small step at a time, as it says here in this book. So at any given moment, regardless if I was in a situation that normally would cause me some anxiety, or if I was in a situation that I wasn't, I would be practicing that slow breathing. Because remember, your body cannot be 2 things at the same time. It cannot feel 2 things at the same time, meaning it can't be anxious or fearful and calm at the same time. It's literally impossible. Just the same reason we can't really multitask our task. A lot of people think you can, but it's been proven time and time again. Multitasking is not true. Yes, you can move from one thing to another within seconds, just like your body can be calm and then fearful within a second if you have a saber-tooth tiger coming at you. But at any given instant, it can only be one thing. So I kept telling myself that. I was like, right, if I'm calm, I can't have anxiety. If I'm calm, I can't be fearful. So why not just practice being calm all the time? And just like Billie Jean did with this practice of saying, you know what, like, yeah, I'm feeling this weird stuff, this stuff that's making me sick to my stomach. That's how she was feeling. Like she thought she was going to die. She goes, I'm just going to start inverting it and say like something big's about to happen. This is like God is putting something big in front of my life here right now. And I need to just embrace it and own this because this is exciting. It's not a threat. This is going to be awesome. This is like, and here's why this saying is so important, right? She says what she found over time, the majority of people don't do big things in their life. They're because of all the fears and because of all the anxieties. And she says, I just started looking at it as I watched, some of my friends who had great potential. She's even some of her people that she played tennis against and just buckled underneath the pressure. And she's like, this pressure is a privilege. Right. And it can be applied to all situations. It doesn't matter if you're going to be a tennis pro. That pressure is an absolute privilege. And she's like, this was apparently one of the big things in her life that she always just embraced, including in public speaking, that, this is basically a privilege. It's a gift from God when you feel that pressure because great moments carry great weight. right? And that's what pressure to perform is all about. So remember that great moments carry great weight. And that is what the pressure to perform is all about. And of course, it can be really tough to face that pressure. But to Billie Jean's point, you know what? Very few people get the chance to experience it because they always in their comfort zone and they never do anything exciting. So it's like this, it's an absolute privilege to have that fear and to have that pressure and those anxieties, because that means something big is about to happen. With that realization, she saw that she could embrace rather than suppress the feelings of stress and anxiety. And that was the mindset that allowed her to get through her first Grand Slam with enormous media hype. That was the Battle of the Sexes against Bobby Riggs in the 70s. I'm excited. I'm going to go read Billie Jean's books. I didn't know all that about her, but really, really, really fascinating. And I just absolutely love the pressure is privilege, because looking back on my life, some of those biggest moments and the biggest breakthroughs have happened when I felt that pressure. And I'm talking about both on the side of things that I thought were a threat and they weren't, and that just built up that confidence, right? Starts slow, one step at a time. But I'm also talking about those big things where, you have that chance to kind of get in the game and do something big. And that's from, job interviews and all kinds of things that I've just been able to do over my career. Usually there was a lot of pressure around it. And even some of the public speaking things, that's not easy for me. A lot of people say, "Oh man, you crushed it up there." And no, that was a lot of practice and a lot of essentially fear and pressure. So I don't know. I'm just going to look at everything differently now. Anytime I'm feeling that anxiety or that pressure or it's that sensation, and what I'm talking about, regardless if you've had anxiety attack or not. That feeling that when you got to do something, and it's usually something big, like public speaking, which is tough for most people, can relate to that. Your heart starts beating fast, and sometimes you even start kind of sweating, and you feel like you're about to get in the game. Well, just always keep saying this is absolute privilege, right? Have fun with it. That's what she started doing, clearly, is, instead of just being so nervous and such a wreck where she couldn't even sleep, like, I'm going to have fun with this. I practice, I put in the work. I know this is an absolute privilege, and I'm just going to go out there and do my very best and have fun doing it. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. I would highly recommend getting The Expectation Effect by David Robson. I've now done 2 different podcasts about this, and it's how your mindset can change your world. And obviously this is just one of many, many stories in there. I told a couple other stories on a prior podcast. I just thought it was so fascinating how our minds have so much power, good and bad, right? For any of us who have suffered from these anxiety attacks or these just attacks on our body in general, I mean, it's also proof that our minds are very powerful, taking us down a gnarly or an uncomfortable path, right? On many times on things that aren't even real. So I would encourage you to just start trying to reframe it. And I think too, where people get in trouble is we all want things so fast, right? And it's not like Billie Jean went from, being a 5th grader who thought she was literally going to have a heart attack and die to just one day saying, "Hey, pressure is privilege." And the next day she just went up there and was a great speaker. No, it was, she even said her very first time, like actually speaking publicly, she still doesn't, like, she blacked out. She doesn't even remember it. It was that bad, but apparently she did okay. And she's like, "Well, I lived," and did it again and just kind of kept getting better every single time, to the point where now, she's essentially a public speaker. I mean, gets paid to go speak at places and actually enjoys it. But it all starts one step at a time. It's a journey, right? And I think so many of us, because of just how we're wired, especially here in America, we're wired to just want everything so fast, right? We got a fast internet, fast food, everything's got to be fast, and we don't have any patience. But this is something you have to have patience on. And what I found, from my personal life and most of the people that I've talked to who have overcome a lot of these anxieties and these fears, is it's usually when you're at your lowest low, when you feel like you've lost all hope, like you were so close, like that's when it's incredibly close to finding out the answer, to taking that one right step forward where all of a sudden you get that hope and you're like, wait a minute, I can do this. And then massive doors start opening. I've also found that usually the people that are going through anxiety attacks and a lot of just pressure like this, usually God has a massive plan for them and is really just trying to get your body ready to handle this pressure because of the big things. Like I said, had I not gone through all the things I did, I don't know that I'd be where I am today, to be able to lead a company with now 30 employees and to be able to have a massive community of hundreds of thousands of people in our fishing tribe, and to be able to go to these chapter meetings and speak and have fun. I don't know that I wouldn't have been able to do that with the confidence I have now had I not gone through that. And so I absolutely love this pressure is a privilege. I'm going to use it, especially the next time I got to do any kind of public speaking. I still get nervous about that, but I'm going to start just saying, man, this is an absolute privilege. This because it's something meaningful. This is not a threat. It's something meaningful, right? So just remember that anytime you're having it, do your slow breathing. This is not a threat. This is something because it's something meaningful. It's because God's about to do something special here. So I hope that helps. Remember that phrase, pressure is a privilege. Pressure is a privilege if you're completely into proper English. So guys, love you. Hopefully this was helpful, and share this with your kids too. I'm going to share it with my own kids whenever they're feeling that pressure from, my kids are going through the age of having to take their first test and, grades for the first time, and you got to take end of the year tests. And it's like this, then that's the most I've seen them kind of stressed. And I was like, this is a privilege. This is because it's something meaningful and you care. This is not a threat to you. And what's wild, in this book, so they, I'll just share one of the other cool studies just to kind of prove this. So they went to, I don't remember what college it was, but they had some end of year testing. And let's just say there's 100 people that were taking this test. For 50 of them, they actually, at the very top of the test, there was a little paragraph, just one paragraph. And I'm not looking in the book right now, so I don't know what it said word for word, but essentially these 50 people who were just picked randomly all read a paragraph that said, hey, when you feel anxiety, it is completely normal. And that it was basically saying anxiety is normal and you should have anxiety if you really care about this test, right? So it just it reframed exactly what I just said. So that essentially the pressure is meaningful, that, hey, the anxiety you're feeling, or if you're nervous for the test, that's 100% natural. And that's usually the people that do best in the test, something to that effect. Like, it's because it means a lot. And the other people got nothing. They just took the test. And those 50 who read that one little paragraph, just reframing their mind, and they didn't know what was going on, by the way. They just happened to see that and read it. Like, okay, cool. They all did better than the other 50. Well, like every one of them. Like, that's fascinating that they did better on their scores than the people that didn't read it, who probably had a lot of anxiety. So those 50 people seem to be calmer, and for whatever reason, tricked their head into actually doing better on the test. It's mind-boggling. So read the book, tons of examples like that in there. And I think so much that we can learn about telling our body and our mind what we want it to, and not letting it take control over us and try to convince us that something is a threat when it's really a privilege. So hope that helps. Love you guys, and I'll talk to you on the next episode.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul, it was pain.